5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Solihull Radio Studios, this is The Josh Samuels Show, your Saturday afternoon obsession.
Candles burning, ruby red, sheets are falling off the bed. Run your fingers through my hair. I know what you're thinking. Take me there. You hypnotize me with your touch, and I can never get enough of you. It's true. And anywhere you wanna go, my hand is only yours to hold. Oh, you know, I'm so obsessed with the way that your lips kiss me like crazy. Ooh, you amaze me when you walk in the room. You got me losing it. Yeah, I'm a mess. Girl, I confess, I'm so obsessed. Oh, yeah. Every time you walk away, I guess your perfume likes to stay on my pillow, on my shirt. Listen, baby, for what it's worth, I'm so obsessed with the way that your lips kiss me like crazy. Ooh, you amaze me when you walk in the room. You got me losing it. Yeah, I'm a mess. Girl, I confess, I'm so obsessed. Yeah, yes. So give it to me, give it to me, give it to me now. And I'm so obsessed with the way that your lips kiss me like crazy. Ooh, you amaze me when you walk in the room. You got me losing it, baby. Yeah, I'm a mess. Girl, I confess, I'm so obsessed. Oh, baby. Oh, yeah. When your friends all around and you kiss me in front of everybody, you know it drives me crazy, girl. So come and lay one on my lips, girl. Doodle, 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 doodle. Just do it to me. Yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, you know it. I'm so obsessed. You're never getting rid of me, baby. Never getting rid of me, baby. Yeah, yeah. You know it.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you, like me, are in full celebration mode after England's wonderful, wonderful triumph
Break it down for me, baby.
against Tunisia on Monday, which we'll be naturally talking about in a few moments' time. And alongside that, I'll be telling you all about my surprises of the World Cup so far, some of which I'm sure you'll be able to guess already. And I'll be rounding off the show with an assessment of how each of the Middle East teams will get on in their upcoming championship season, with the fixtures having been released, of course, on Thursday. I'm on my own this week, so instead of having a guest to chat to during the halftime section, I'll be launching into a couple of little rants and debate topics, namely whether being a good player can make you a good manager, and whether Mo Salah has affected Liverpool in the right ways. And after that, I've also got details after an exciting competition which is coming your way if you are probably under the age of about 12, and I will be telling you all about that at around 4 o'clock. And the prize is a pair of England's children's sunglasses. So if you're interested, stay tuned at 4 o'clock and you'll hear all the details about it then. And if you want to have a look at the sunglasses, bit of a try before you buy, so to speak, they should be available on our social media if Emily has been kind enough to upload them for me. But, as always, we are going to be kicking off with the World Cup. Last week I played for you the 2002 World Cup song from England, which was Ant and Dec. Coming to the present day now, and if you were reading my tweets from a couple of days ago, you will have heard, or you would have seen rather, that Scouting for Girls have got a brand new song for England for this World Cup. I don't know if it's official, but it's a very good song. I promised that I would play it for you. I think this is going to be the debut of the song on Solihull Radio, so you're very, very privileged to be listening to it this afternoon. The song is called England I Still Believe. And if I can just get it to play for you. There we go. Let me know what you think. I'll see you in a few.
All the way. For better or worse, it wasn't to be. We threw it away on a beautiful day. Back in 96, we got our kicks. We came so close, but in the end we missed. You broke my heart, and nothing's changed. Starting to hear your name about town again. England. Remembering how you let me down. You let me down again and again. But it's no good, 'cause if I could go the way with you, you know I would. You were the one who got away. I've been telling myself, don't you get tricked, convincing myself that you changed, but I can't seem to stop the dream. It's our year, baby, 2018. Oh, I know we can go the way. England, 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 I'm still in love. Oh, England, England, even after everything you've done, I'm on my knees, but I can't leave. I feel you running through my bloodstream. England, what can you see? I still believe. England, and I still dream. England, I still believe. England, and I still dream. England, God save the Queen. England, 2018. England, I still believe.
Banks,
I
Charlton,
still
Moore,
believe.
Robson,
Oh, I
Hawkins,
still believe.
Russell, Lineker,
So
Barnes,
sing with me.
Beckham, Rooney,
Come on.
Kane.
Can you see? I still believe.
wonderful song there, England I Still Believe. Might not go down in history as one of the best songs that England has ever produced as far as the World Cup goes, but I think it's still a wonderful, wonderful song. And if you're not playing that with your roof down, windows open, radio blasting, then quite frankly, why not? It is a wonderful, wonderful song. And I almost neglected to mention that there are an almost endless amount of ways you can get in contact with me this afternoon, whether it's to do with what I'm about to talk about next, which is the World Cup, or any of the other topics. So, by all means, call me in the studio on 0121 777 8410, or send me a text on 075 64 30 30 64, or even send me an email at studio@solihullradio.com, or even tweet me. I've got a brand new username, which I'm sure some of you that know me will be pleased to see. Quite simply, at Samuels Radio. A lot more simpler than at Sir Josh Samuels, I'm sure you'll agree. And even with the hashtag The Josh Samuels Show or The JS Show. And I might take one or two song requests this afternoon if they are any good. So make sure you get those into me as soon as you can. But as I said, we are going to talk about the World Cup now. And I'm going to start really by talking about England's first group game against Tunisia, a wonderful 2-1 win. Just about got there, even though we really did deserve a lot more from that game than we did in terms of goals. But we have to really ask ourselves, how did we let ourselves get into such a position whereby we were completely dominating that Tunisia side and only come away with a 2-1 win? Because there's obviously no doubting the quality in the golfing class between the two sides, but when it comes to the fact that some of the Premier League's top players coming against players that probably don't even play in the top flights in whatever countries they play in, and we only managed to get a 2-1 win, the fact we even conceded, regardless of the circumstances, penalty or otherwise, was quite frankly shocking. That, you know, you can question the penalty and whether England should have had one or two penalties on the back of that. You can argue with that until the cows come home, quite frankly with you. But the fact is that England should have, a bit like Belgium did just a few moments ago, absolutely destroy Tunisia 5-2. Even though Tunisia did get one more goal, they conceded 5. I don't think that Romelu Lukaku is necessarily better than Harry Kane. I don't think that the golfing class between Belgium's midfield and England's midfield is such that they can get 3 more goals than we can. But don't get me wrong, I think it was phenomenal that we could get the excitement. We could still G on the players, whether it's the fans in the stadium or Gareth Southgate from the sidelines. The fact that we got it into us to get that winning goal in the dying seconds suggests to me that we've got a wonderful team spirit, an absolutely fantastic team spirit amongst the England squad, and that's been obvious throughout the last few weeks, from when Southgate allowed the media to interview the players at St George's Park, or whether it's just you just see them on social media just having fun. And you know, football should be a fun sport. It's not a business, despite what these multi-million, billion companies seem to think. It's not a business at its core. It's fun, and the players, for once, certainly for the first time in my lifetime, 20 years now, they look like they're enjoying themselves. It doesn't look like under the years of Fabio Capello, where it's almost a strain to put on that England shirt. It's not like under Steve McLaren, where we didn't even qualify for Euro 2008, whereby they just didn't really care about him either way. It's not even like Roy Hodgson, where he just clearly was out of his depth. He, as we all know, he put names on a paper over quality and form. He essentially did put class over form, if you like, and international football is a form-based game. So I think if you want to analyse the reasons for why England won, I think it's because Gareth Southgate has instilled the right mentality, the right attitude into that England side. But if you want to look at why we didn't win as convincingly and why we had to wait until the 91st minute in order to get the winner, I really couldn't answer that honestly, because there's no logic behind it, especially when you look at Belgium completely decimating them. I know a lot of people are saying, and even at the moment I can see a few messages coming through saying that, you know, Belgium at the end of the day are a better side than England. Okay, maybe player for player they might be, but as a team they might be, but I think player for player, I think bar maybe Eden Hazard over Raheem Sterling, I would put Hazard better than Sterling, and maybe De Bruyne better than Dele Alli. I don't think that any other member of that Belgium side is necessarily better than their counterpart in the England side either. I think Courtois isn't that great a goalkeeper, if I'm honest with you. I think Pickford is showing some great promise. I think Harry Kane, well, we know Harry Kane is the league's best striker. Mohamed Salah is not a striker. He might be the best goal scorer. He's not a striker. So I would say Harry Kane is our best striker in the Premier League. So I think, could England get a result against Belgium on Thursday? Yeah, I think we could. I think a draw would be a good result. I don't think we're going to beat them on goal difference now unless we end up... Sorry, I don't think we're going to finish above Belgium unless we beat them on goal difference with a great win tomorrow. I can't see us coming away with an emphatic win for the reasons that I just stated, really. I think for some reason there's a bit of a... Not complacent, but a more relaxed attitude. I don't think kind of like some of the Premier League teams, apart from Man City in the most recent season, where they kind of get 1 or 2 goals and they kind of sit back. And that seems to be the attitude that England have. If it wins us the World Cup, we're not going to be sitting here in 3 weeks' time complaining, are we? We're going to be celebrating the tactics. But is it going to win us the World Cup? I'm not so sure. Especially when we come against the bigger teams that haven't got as weak defences and haven't got as weak attacks. I suspect we might struggle a little bit. But I'm still intrigued to see what we can do. And certainly against Belgium, because it's going to be our first real test, really, since Gareth Southgate took over, because you can disregard the bigger teams we played in friendlies. You can really disregard the minor teams that we played in the qualifiers. So I think England versus Belgium is going to be a really, really interesting, big first test for Gareth Southgate's side. But we have had a question in from Mo, my good friend Mo from school. He said, Argentina clearly have some top-class players on the pitch, with the likes of Messi and Aguero, for example. What do you think is currently stopping them from achieving their potential on the pitch? Well, that's actually... I haven't really thought about that. Messi and Aguero, obviously fantastic players. It seems that Aguero is picking up where Messi really should be in the first 2 games that Argentina have played of this World Cup. I think Messi has been shown for what he is and what I've always said he is. I think he's a very, very good player. But I think that he's sort of the sort of player that needs the right team around him. And I don't think that this Argentina side is the right team to surround a player like Lionel Messi. I think Sergio Aguero, again, a great player. And as I said, he's been picking up where Messi should have been. He is the sort of player that can get away with playing in not such a good a team. Because the way that he's attacked, whereas Messi is very much a dribbler, but then he also needs to release the ball at times, and I don't think he always has had the players to release the ball to. Equally, he needs to be fed the ball. I don't think he's being fed the ball in the way that he would like, whereas Aguero, I think, has servers that suits his style of play a lot more. But even from, let's say, Argentina's goalkeeper, Willy Caballero, he's only in there by chance, isn't he, really, because Sergio Romero got injured. So, yeah, I've never really rated this Argentina side going into this World Cup. Certainly not now, given that they lost against Mexico quite humiliatingly. That was just... I don't think they could quite put into words against Croatia. They drew with Mexico. They drew with... No, sorry. I'm getting confused now. They drew with Iceland. They lost to Croatia. Really well, quite humiliating. Croatia aren't that good a side. Really, they got Modric. Realistically, that is about it. Mandzukic had to push. So, yeah, I don't think that Argentina will progress any further than the round of 16, should they, by some sheer chance, manage to get through this group. And for that reason alone, I think you have to say that, I know it goes back to the argument I made a couple of weeks ago, but Ronaldo is above Messi. And I think it is as simple as that. And one final question also coming in from Mo. Busy today, aren't you, Mo? Another question. What are your thoughts on this World Cup's Golden Boot winner? Do you think Harry Kane is in with a good shot? Absolutely. I think if he scored 2 against Tunisia, there's no reason why he can't get 2 or even a hat-trick against Panama. He may have a quiet game against Belgium. It obviously depends on how the game goes. But the only reason I don't think he'll win the Golden Boot, I know this isn't necessarily conducive to winning it, but I don't think we're going to progress further than the quarters. And I think that someone like Portugal definitely will. And I think Cristiano Ronaldo, therefore, is in with a better shout of winning the Golden Boot, because he would have, if my prediction does not go to plan, but if it comes to fruition, then he would have had 2 more games to play in, chances to score 2 more goals. So, provided the further England progress, the more chance Harry Kane has of scoring. That goes without saying. I don't think we're going to get to the quarter. Sorry, I don't think we're going to go past the quarters. So, for that reason, I can't see him winning the Golden Boot, much as I'd love him to. But yeah, I think it is Ronaldo's. Again, there's talk of Lukaku maybe winning it for the same reason as Kane. I can't see Belgium getting to the final, semi-final at best. So, likewise with like I said, I think Ronaldo, it's more or less a one-horse race, unless we have strikers beforehand that start locking them in and then their team gets knocked out, which I can't see. Then I do think that Cristiano Ronaldo will walk away with it, and rightly so, because I think that, much like in the Euros, he has single-handedly dragged Portugal through a great result against Iran, 1-0 win, which they didn't against Morocco. Sorry, they didn't have the best of games, and then the 3-3 draw against Spain, which was a fantastic game. So no, I'm not convinced Harry Kane will win it, but certainly he'll be up there. But for the simple reason that England, I don't think, will be in the latter stages of the World Cup, is why I'm going to say I don't think that he'll win it. And then you might have also seen on the social media post that Emily has put up that I was going to quickly run through some of the nice surprises from the World Cup so far. So, obviously Germany is probably a good place to start, the holders. And I think anyone that saw the game against Mexico knows how humiliated, quite frankly, they were. It was a terrible, terrible game. And, as far as Germany were concerned, Mexico, they really, really held their own. They're not a good team, I don't think, Mexico. I really don't. I think Germany, World Cup winners aside, it's 4 years on. The fact they had to leave out players like Leroy Sané shows the strength in that German side. I think Germany will recover. They have a game coming up against Sweden this evening. I can't see them losing that. I can only see them winning that. Then again, I said that about Mexico, but even so, I do think that Germany should still top the group, really, or at least qualify. And so, yeah, but having said that, I can only talk about what's already happened in terms of a surprise. So yeah, Germany absolutely have surprised me. Argentina, I've already spoken about Argentina in response to Mo. Brazil also. Brazil were touted as one of the favourites, if not the favourite, to win this World Cup. And I suppose it shows that this is a team in progress. They really aren't learning much from their 7-1 demolition of Germany 4 years ago. Are they really? Brazil, poor against Costa Rica. How they got the win is a mystery to me, to be honest with you. Because I don't think they deserved it. I think a draw probably would have been a fair result. Yes, Brazil might have had more chances and better chances and more of them, but for a team like Brazil against a team like Costa Rica, it should be 2-0 before half time's even started. So, yeah, I think Brazil might have got the win, but I'm slowly stopping rating this side. I think they have a lot to do if they want to get to the quarterfinals and beyond. And finally, Russia. And they've surprised me for reasons completely alien and completely opposite to what Germany, Brazil and Argentina are all experiencing at the moment. Russia, and you can bring in your politics into this, but Russia have done what not a single person on this earth was expecting, apart from maybe Putin, was expecting them to do. They have absolutely demolished both teams that have come in front of them so far in Egypt and Saudi Arabia. And they have therefore qualified for the round of 16. And they really have shown why, or how important it is to have the home fans behind you, I think. I think, Uruguay did it in the first World Cup. We did it in 66. France did it in 98. For some reason, home crowd does have a big difference. And they are, despite having been the lowest ranked side in terms of FIFA with the World Cup teams, they have really, really exceeded any remote expectation, and they have just been fantastic. And a quick little word on our fantasy league. If you don't know, we did launch a fantasy league for the show on an app called iTeam. sponsored by Soccerway a few weeks ago, and we're now obviously now into our second week of it. Now winning at the moment is Ollie Kitson with Blink 182. I think I pronounced that right. I don't know if that's quite how... If it's meant to be funny, I'm not sure, but it's a name. Second place, we've got Dan White with The Tortoise and De Gea, which I'm a big fan of the name. Also doing very well with 126 points, 10 behind Ollie. In third is Will Banks with the aptly named Three Lions on 113, and I'm in fourth with 109. My team is Just Joshing, which I quite like the name. Maybe you don't. Anyway, so that's enough for World Cup, I think, for now. And I think it's probably about time that we moved on to topic number 2. So we're going to talk, maybe sticking with the World Cup, but not talking about it in itself in as much detail. Go have a little chat about whether the English media really should have leaked the English team sheet. And leading us into this is a great song. I think it was released in time for the 2012 Olympics. Read All About It by Emily Sandé.
But you're biting your tongue. You've spent a lifetime stuck in silence, afraid you'll say something wrong. If no one ever hears it, how we gonna learn your song? So come on, come on, come on, come on. You've got a heart as loud as lion, so why let your voice be tamed? Maybe we're a little different, there's no need to be ashamed. You've got the light to fight the shadow, so stop hiding it away. Come on, come on. I wanna
solihullradio.com.
Lovely tune there, wasn't it, from Emily Sandé? Nice relaxing song, unlike the next topic, which, as I said, was whether the English media should have leaked the England team sheet against Panama, which is our game tomorrow. So I think the background behind the story kind of speaks for itself, really, but there's the big debate which is arising between journalists and football fans, pundits, and just the public in general, which is the journalists thinking that it's the duty of journalists to report news, whatever it is, and no matter who it benefits or hinders, whereas the fans are thinking the journalists should be behind the England team, which I'd have to agree with. But let's just hear, well, I'll be reading them out, but let's just listen to a few quotes from both players and journalists. So, Kyle Walker, England centre-back, normally full-back, but centre-back, said, I think if you guys try to keep it to yourself and don't bring it out to the world, because it's not going to help us come through the later stages of the tournament, please God we get there, all the rest of the world seeing our team now, if that is the team or not. As I say, you guys have to help to do your little bit, so if you could just please help us with that, it would be polite. And manager Gareth Southgate added, obviously any time if we were to give the opposition the opportunity of having our team, it's a disadvantage to us. So of course, I've lost it. Our media has to decide whether they want to help the team or not. He then went on to say it didn't really bother him that much, but even so. And then the sports editor for the BBC News, Dan Roan, said, core role of the media in whatever field is to report the news impartially. The public expect it in politics. Why any different in sport? Don't know any journalists covering England here who don't want to see the team do well, but also have a job to do. It was an open training session, and Gary Neville replied on Twitter saying, it undermines the relationship and trust with the team, which, interesting, was liked by the official England Twitter page. And then, I think he's a fan, I've never heard of him if he is anything else, Paul McAllister replied to Dan Roan also saying, Gary Neville is right, there is no other media in the world that sets out to sabotage the national team like England do. It was the same thing with Allardyce, what was the need in causing all that headache? And Dan Bardell, who follows the Josh Samuel Show on Twitter, thank you very much, Dan. I don't know if he's listening or not. He is a presenter on the Villa View on YouTube. He added, so if it was the World Cup final on the horizon and a Germany coach made the same error, do you think the German press would report it? The English press would, and in my opinion, they shouldn't. What they've done only hinders, it doesn't help. And I can't help but agree with the sentiments of Neville, McAllister and Bardell. What I found really interesting, actually, was the little part of Dan Roan's tweet which said the public expects impartiality in politics. Why is it any different in sport? Now, in my opinion, it is totally bizarre to compare the two. So I know it's not a politics show, but if we just quickly talk about the fact that within England, when it comes to politics, you can support the Conservatives, Labour, Lib Dem, UKIP, the Greens, and the other hundreds of parties that there are. Therefore, the fact that there's such a vast choice of parties you can follow and support and vote for, the need for impartiality and the desire for impartiality is heightened, since there are at least 5 mainstream parties and all the other parties you could theoretically support. So for a newspaper to vocally support one to that extent, even though they might do it, implicitly, would be slightly outrageous. But in England, I would hope that everyone, or at least anyone that's actually English, is wanting England and only England to win the World Cup. And therefore, if the whole country is, or at least should be, supporting the same team, then I don't really see who the media's trying to appease by being, as Rome puts it, impartial. Because if I went to, or even better if I lived in Spain, or France, or Germany, or any other country that's in the World Cup at the moment, I wouldn't expect their media to be supporting anyone other than that country. So why should our media? And it's not as though our media in the past haven't, voiced support for Brexit or against Brexit or for what other issues that they feel pertinent. They made it very clear, I think it was The Sun in 98, that Glenn Hoddle should go. Where was the impartiality then? So it seems like they're picking and choosing when to be impartial. And I think that it is the role of the English media, first and foremost, in my opinion, to support England and what England represents. And then, maybe secondary to that, especially when it comes to such a national occasion and when the whole country should be coming together, then, and only then, after that, should it be then reporting on things that could potentially hinder England and the country in general, regardless of whether it's at the World Cup or anything else. And I say that because it wasn't anyone else's media that was leaking that photo, it was only the English media. So you have to ask yourself what the English media thought they were getting out of that. A few more likes on their Facebook page, a few more purchases of their newspapers. Well, so what? Because what did Panama get out of it? Looking at exactly how we might be lining up tomorrow. Now, hopefully, it won't quite be the case. Maybe there was a bit of a red herring, a bit of a bluff. We don't know until the team is released tomorrow. But what we do know is that the English media and the cameraman that thought he was being so wise in taking it has given the opportunity away to allow Panama to set themselves up, which might not be how they might have set up tomorrow, had this not been released, to try and counter our formation, to counter who might be playing tomorrow. We might have been playing Raheem Sterling for all they know, or Dele Alli, despite what other press have been reporting. They might not have known that if this team hadn't been released. So quite what the media think that they're doing, and what this cameraman thought he was doing, unless he was obviously Scottish, by releasing this, seems to me that they knew perfectly well. They know these people aren't stupid despite this action. They're not stupid people. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew exactly that this photograph was going to get out worldwide. And I think that they're using this... I think they had this excuse that it's a journalist's role to report on everything impartially otherwise. It was pre-planned and as an excuse. And I think it's quite frankly nonsense. And I just do not understand it. And you have to look at other media outlets. You know, people are complaining that in America that Fox News is totally biased towards Donald Trump, and then Donald Trump complains that CNN is completely biased against him. And then we've got, even in terms of politics, as Dan Roan was saying, despite him claiming that it should be, in my opinion, the BBC isn't particularly impartial. I'm not going to say which way I think it is, but I don't think it is particularly impartial. And whereas Sky News, I think, is incredibly impartial. So, and I think that because of that, they get a lot more credibility and they get a lot more people supporting the news station. They get a lot more people wanting to tune in because they're not going to get a biased point of view. It is neutral reporting. And I think if this is the channel that he wants to go down, Dan Roan, then I think he has to consider whether the company he works with, BBC, actually follows that philosophy, and whether actually newspapers really do follow that philosophy as well. And in fact, the one time that they should be anything but impartial when it comes to supporting this country, as we all should be, whether, you know, no matter what demographic you come from, the one time you should be, and they're not. And they are doing what seems like everything in their power to not only hinder us, but to justify their hindering of us, their hindrance. I think it's shocking on their part, quite frankly, and I just do not understand where the media's getting off. I really do not. And the fact that we even have to have this debate about whether it is fair or not for them to be doing that, the fact that they have given us the possibility to discuss whether it was fair of the English media to be broadcasting the English team sheet for the whole world to see, in itself says a lot about the media's mentality, that this hasn't been a debate that's just been shut down there and then, that they were wrong. The fact there's people actually defending the actions of the media says to me that there are far more problems, far bigger problems within our media than this isolated incident. And I think if we're not careful, then there's going to be a lot more that's going to come out in the coming days and weeks, especially the further we progress. You know, if let's just say we play, I don't know, France in the final, who said that they're not going to directly email them our team sheet just because it's a journalist's job to report? You know, it's a nonsensical response to a nonsensical action, and I think it's shameful, quite frankly with you. I just do not understand where they've got off whatsoever. It's just bizarre. I think I might leave that one there. Coming up next is our final song before I talk... our penultimate song before I talk about the competition. Slightly linked to a local topic. The song, which is coming up in just a second, is I'm Your Man by Wham! I'm Your Man by Wham. That is a great song, isn't it? But, speaking of I'm Your Man, this brings me on to my next topic, which is, can being a good player make you a good manager? And this is coming in light of the news a couple of days ago that Tim Flowers was named as the new Solihull Moors boss. And even though he was a Premier League winner, because he was a Premier League winner, people are saying that he's therefore going to be a good manager and that he's going to bring all this experience and whatever. And I'm not saying that none of this isn't going to happen, or it is, because we obviously don't know until we see him in action. But what I do know is that every single time a very good player retires, it's automatically assumed that they are going to be good managers. I think the fact that Frank Lampard has gone to Derby, Stephen Gerrard at Rangers, even Gary Neville taking a job at Valencia, to name just three off the top of my head, suggests to me that this is exactly the case. That we think because they were such legendary players that they're going to bring whatever they brought to the football pitch, to the touchline, to the dugout. And I'm not convinced that the two are necessarily linked, because let's just take some more examples. Tony Adams, for example, probably one of the worst managers in the Premier League era, but was a fantastic captain, won the Premier League twice as captain with Arsenal. I think he's the only player in English football history to win the league, I believe, as captain as well, in 3 different decades. Yeah, only be as captain in 3 different decades. So, fantastic player, don't get me wrong, but didn't go so well at Portsmouth as manager, even worse at Granada. So, and then you kind of thinking, even Steve Bruce, yeah, he was really good as a player, very good captain, very good at the lower levels of football, not necessarily good at the high level, and maybe Mark Hughes the same. So, and even the managers that have gone on to win the Premier League, let me see. So you've got Sir Alex Ferguson. Right, he had an okay career. Then you've got Kenny Dalglish. All right, maybe that's an exception to the rule. A very, very good player. And, you know, for all intents and purposes, he was a good manager at Liverpool. And Blackburn, of course, where he won the league, the Premier League. Then it goes to Arsene Wenger. I don't think anyone can even name a club he played for in his youth. And then we've got, well, I think Jose Mourinho. I don't think he even played professional football. And then, Carlo Ancelotti after that, I think, yeah, okay, he had quite a good career. And then Mancini, likewise, decent career. Guardiola, you know, good player as well. But I wouldn't say that their playing careers mirrored their careers as managers. And I think he'd be very, very hard. Maybe Zinedine Zidane, probably the only one I can think of. And please feel free to message in with any other suggestions. I can't think of anyone else whose managerial career has matched their playing career. So I think Tim Flowers will do a good job. I think because he does bring a lot to the game, even if it's just passing on his expertise. Even if he obviously being a goalkeeper, there's going to be a lot more he can offer goalkeepers and maybe attackers, without wanting to talk down his coaching ability as a whole too much. Naturally, as a goalkeeper for 2 decades, he's obviously going to have a lot to say to them. But I'm not so sure that he is going to live up to the expectations that a lot of people are having of him, because he was the Premier League winning goalkeeper. And I think that in itself can be a bit harmful, because, as I said, being a good player is a totally different thing. You're kind of being told what to do. As a manager, you're the one that's telling people what to do. And even when it came to the Arsenal job, people were touting Mikel Arteta and Thierry Henry. And in a sense, this comes to whether an assistant manager can also move on to be a good manager, because Mikel Arteta was the assistant. He is still the assistant of Pep Guardiola at Man City. And my friend Alex, who I'm not sure if he's listening today, he might be. Alex was suggesting that because Mikel Arteta was Guardiola's assistant and Guardiola just won the Premier League, Guardiola's a very good manager, that he will therefore go on to be a good manager himself. Which I found bizarre, because if you look at the assistants that let's say Sir Alex Ferguson has had during his time at Manchester United, well, we had Archie Knox, who I don't think even managed a club when he left United. Again, correct me if I'm wrong with that. Then I believe Brian Kidd came after that. Well, I think we all know what happened to Brian Kidd's managerial career. Blackburn Rovers got relegated, sacked a couple of months into the following season. Walter Smith, okay, he was a manager before he became assistant, really, wasn't he? Ricky Sabragia, right, he kept Sunderland up, hasn't really done much since returned to United in the youth setup. Then there's Mike Phelan, got sacked by Hull, maybe unnecessarily so, but he's not really got a job since. René Mudenstein, sacked from both Fulham and Andy Makachkala. So it doesn't really look as though there are any credentials apart to be a good manager, whether you've been a good player or a good assistant, or even been assistant to a good manager, even having been a player under a good manager. None of these things, necessarily mean you're going to be a good manager yourself. And I do think that a lot of football fans and pundits alike fall into this trap that because you've achieved all this as a player, you might have the biggest trophy cabinet going, that you're therefore going to be a fantastic manager. So I just think it's true. You know, Ryan Giggs, the most successful player in English football history, with 13 Premier League titles, 2 Champions Leagues, and God knows what else. But what's he going to achieve at Wales realistically? He might get them to qualify for the next Euros. They're not going to win it, I can tell you that now. They're certainly not going to replicate what they did at Euro 2016. So, again, are people expecting big things from him? Is he going to become the next United manager after Jose leaves? Probably not. I think he probably had his chance and he missed it. Is Frank Lampard going to win the league with Derby this season? Probably not. Is Gerrard going to win the league with Rangers? Absolutely not. So I think this expectation that being a good player makes you a good manager, it does seem like it's a bit false, doesn't it, really? And I think you have to allow these managers to build up their reputation and their careers as managers away from their playing career. And then you can judge them. And then you can say whether they're good at what they do. I think Zinedine Zidane, maybe he was fortunate to walk into such a successful team. Because they'd won it a couple of seasons before. They'd won the league. They are really one of the 2 only proper competitive teams in Spain. And I'm curious as to where he's going to go now. Because how can you really top 3 Champions League trophies? And even on the flip side of that, you've got Sir Alex Ferguson, who had a fantastic managerial career. Again, as I said, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he is the most successful manager in English history. He really should be, really. He certainly brought United to the top of the tree in every regard. But his playing career was, for all intents and purposes, somewhat underwhelming. I don't think, many people could really name clubs that he played for. Perhaps maybe because it was a long time ago, but even so. And then you've got other legendary players that, for whatever reason, didn't go into management. Maybe they didn't fancy it. Maybe they just weren't up to scratch. But I think it just seems very, very clear to me that, with bearing all of these examples in mind, that you shouldn't just be able to walk into a job and have the expectation that you are going to succeed. Tim Flowers, to his credit, has worked. I think he was a manager at some lower league clubs. He not lower than non-league. He also has worked at the coaching setup at Solihull Moors already. That I think he's almost got promoted into the role, so he's worked his way up. So to an extent, you can say he might succeed, but that won't necessarily be because he was a good player. It will be because he's worked to get to the stage. Whereas with players like Frank Lampard, who's now manager of Derby, with Steven Gerrard, who's now at Rangers, which I think is crazy, but I think that's a debate for another day. And even with Ryan Giggs at Wales, and I'm sure there are other examples that I just can't think of off the top of my head. No one's expecting them to achieve much, maybe because it's their first job, but even so. But primarily because they've never managed before. Steven Gerrard's only managed the under 21s or 23s at Liverpool. Ryan Giggs was assistant at United. Lampard, I don't think, had a coaching role before. So for them to walk into these jobs and people to have these expectations, I think it's really unfair, actually, on the players come managers themselves. I think you have to allow them time to build up their status and their, I don't want to use the word legacy because I think it's a bit premature, but certainly their reputation, if you like. as managers, and we really have to separate their playing careers from their managerial careers. Because, like I said, you've got a lot of players that were only known for being really good players, and you've got a lot of managers who are only known for being very good managers, and the two are very, very rarely linked or very rarely interwoven with each other. Like I said, you've got Mark Hughes, Steve Bruce, to name two that have established themselves quite well both as players and as managers in the Premier League, and there aren't that many really that have had the distinction of being able to do both. I mean, Roberto Mancini, as far as I'm aware, is the only manager to have played in the Premier League and won the Premier League, but he didn't really do much as a Leicester City player in the, I think it was early 2000s, did he really? Yeah, he had a good career in Italy, but like I said, I think you really have to distinguish the two and allow them to build their own careers and almost think of it as a completely new career, if you like, because managing, that's not even a word. Being a manager is a lot different to playing, and we will see, obviously, how Tim Flowers gets on and how Lampard, Gerrard and Giggs get on in their respective jobs in the near future, and I'm sure if anything massive comes up, this will be the first place we are going to be chatting about it. But it is now time to give a very huge shout out to someone who I know is a very big fan of the show. His name is Sam Cotton, and he has requested, or had a song requested for him, which is a dance song. So, at my discretion, I hope this is a song you like. If it's not, then let me know, and I'll get another song on for you next week. But this is "Can't Stop the Feeling" by Justin Timberlake. Now let me just load this up for you. Bear with me 1 second. There we go. So here we are. "Can't Stop the Feeling," Justin Timberlake. See you in a few. This is for you, Sam Cotton.
I got this feeling inside my bones. It goes electric wavy when I turn it on. Off from my city, off from my home. We're flying up, no ceiling when we in our zone. I got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my feet. I feel that hot blood in my body when it drops. Ooh, I can't take my eyes off of it, moving so phenomenally. You're more like the way we rock it, so don't stop. And under the lights, when everything goes, nowhere to hide when I'm getting you close. When we move, well, you already know. So just imagine. Nothing I can see but you when you dance, dance, dance. Feel good, good creeping up on you. So just dance, dance, dance. Come on. All those things I shouldn't do, but you dance, dance, dance. And ain't nobody leaving soon, so keep dancing. I can't stop the feeling. So just dance, dance, dance. So just dance, 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 come on. Ooh, it's something magical. It's in the air, it's in my blood, it's rushing on. I don't need no reason, don't be control. I fly so high, no ceiling when I'm in my zone. Cause I got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my feet. I feel that hot blood in my body when it drops. Ooh, I can't take my eyes off of it, moving so phenomenally. You're more like the way we rock it, so don't stop, stop, stop. Under the lights when everything goes, nowhere to hide when I'm getting you close. When we move, well, you already know. So just imagine. Nothing I can see but you when you dance, dance, dance. Feel good, good creeping up on you. So just dance, dance, dance. Come on. All those things I shouldn't do, but you dance, dance, dance. And ain't nobody leaving soon, so keep dancing. I can't stop the feeling. So just dance, dance, dance. I can't stop the feeling. So just dance, dance, dance. I can't stop the feeling. So just dance, dance, dance. I can't stop the feeling. Yeah. So keep dancing. Oh, yeah, yeah. I can't stop the. I can't stop the.
Hope you enjoyed that, Sam. That was Can't Stop the Feeling by Justin Timberlake. But now it is competition time, as if you were listening at the beginning of the show, I'm launching a competition which finishes next week, so it's a two-parter if you like. Quite simple. If you get the question this week right and the question next week right, there we go, that's better, you will be entered into our draw, and one winner will be picked at random to win a pair of England children's sunglasses. And if you want to have a little look, as I said earlier, and I hope that they are on the Twitter page. If not, then let me know. Send me a message. Send me either in the studio or on Twitter, and I will get that up to you if you'd like to have a look beforehand. So as I said, there's going to be one question this week, one question next week. If you get them both right, then at the end of next week's show, I will announce the winner. Quite simple as that, isn't it, really? So, this week's question is, remember you have to get this week's right and next week's right, so make sure you're listening next week as well, guys. This week's question is, who is the current captain of the England squad? Now, if you want to get in touch with me, you can either text me, don't call me because I think you don't want to give anyone else your answer, do you? So text me in the studio on 075 64 30 30 64, or email me at studio@studyhaltradio.com. Or you can send me a private message. I wouldn't send it to me publicly because you don't want anyone else nicking your answer, do you? So, as I said, that is at Samuel's Radio, or even message the studio Twitter, Solihull_radio. And the question next week will be, again, World Cup themed, so maybe you want to get revising on that. I won't give too much away, but I suspect you might know the answer, but either way, let me know what you think the answer is this week and also next week, and at the end of next week's show I will announce our lucky winner. I think that's enough about the competition for now. Coming on to another song, a song from an artist that I tried to play last week, different song, same artist. He's on to our next. I Can't Change the World.
A bomb goes off in a far-off city. A siren wails right here at home. Well, sometimes life ain't all that pretty when you're watching it all alone. You build a wall around your fears, just another heart afraid to break. And you don't want to let me in, 'cause really, what difference can I make? I can't change the world, baby, that's for sure. But if you let me, girl, I can change yours. I bet I can change yours. So let Jesus look down on this madness, and let the powers that be just fuss and fight. 'Cause everyone needs to pick their battles, and me, I realize that I can't change the world, baby, that's for sure. can change yours. It's all in vain. You feel like you need to learn that no one's gonna save you. No, no one's gonna save you. But I'm standing here, my heart's on my sleeve. Never gonna let you down, never ever gonna leave you, baby. That's for sure. Change yours. I bet I can change yours.
Brad Posey there. I can't change the world. Another nice dulcet song, isn't it? Nice, soothing, relaxing, great artist. One of my favourite artists out there on the country music scene. Oh, a little preview there of a later song we've got coming up. But now, speaking of I can't change the world, someone that certainly can't change the world, or at least the World Cup, is Mr. Mohamed Salah, who I believe, I don't know if it's official or not, but is certainly on the brink, if he hasn't already, exited the World Cup with Egypt, having had, I don't think he's even, I'm not sure if he even played, no, he played one game, didn't he? Because he scored a penalty. First game missed out through injury. So, is he that good a player? It's a question I'm asking, really. Because you look at what he did at Liverpool. Okay, yeah, he won the Golden Boot. He might have won every Player of the Season award under the sun. But Liverpool didn't win a trophy. Liverpool didn't get gain any progress in the league. In fact, they finished in the same position as the previous season with one fewer point. And they're just a bit of a mess, really, aren't they? So, because people keep citing that Mo Salah is the key to Liverpool's Premier League title dreams. He's the key to the next successful, 5-10 years at Anfield. But is he really? Is Mohamed Salah really the player to get Liverpool to glory? Should it not be a team effort, like the classic Manchester United teams, like the classic Chelsea League winning teams, like the classic Arsenal teams, even perhaps embodied best by the Leicester team? Is it really going to be down to one player? The same player whose injury in the Champions League final many people cite as their reason for losing the final. Many people also citing his absence for Egypt going out of the World Cup so early because he missed the first game. So I'm amazed that one player has that much power at both club and country. And let's not forget, as I was saying in previous weeks, we've seen a below par, a way substandard Premier League in terms of quality over the last 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 seasons. So for him to finish as the top scorer, maybe even with record goals in a 38 game season, doesn't really say that much about the quality of Mohamed Salah as a striker, as a forward, as a finisher. Because he's not exactly scoring against really tough defences, is he? I don't really know what his record in the Champions League was like, but I don't think it was, amazing, shall we say. I think the big standout for Liverpool was that James Milner got the most assists, I believe, ever in a CL campaign. So, is Mo Salah really as I said before, the man that is going to steer Liverpool to all this glory that they're dreaming about and they've been dreaming about since they last won the league in 1990? No, is my answer, quite frankly, with you. And the reason I'm saying that is because I think that Liverpool need a lot more strengthening than Mohamed Salah. They need to tighten their defence up big time. They need to bring in more creativity in that midfield. They need to bring in another substitute striker for Roberto Firmino. And they need to bring in an understudy for Salah himself. And the fact that all of these things need to happen before Liverpool even get close to winning their Premier League title or any other trophy, because they've now trophyless in the last 6 seasons, suggests to me that despite what they think, it is more than the Mohamed Salah show. They need more than this one player. Yeah, they might score goals, but they concede a lot of goals as well. They might score a lot of goals, but they need to score more goals to turn those losses into draws or those draws into wins. And despite the phenomenon that has been Mohamed Salah in the 17-18 season, it didn't happen, did it? They finished above one of the worst Manchester United teams in recent history. A Tottenham side that couldn't win the league if they were the only team in it. And Man City, yeah, okay, they might have run away with the league by a country mile, but Liverpool also were one of 2 teams to beat them in the league and beat them twice in their 2 encounters in the Champions League. So, considering all of this, and considering that Mo Salah is meant to be this god, and that Liverpool fans are, going on a pilgrimage to worship, doesn't sound like he's really giving that lot to the club, is he? As a whole. Yes, he might be giving a lot to the team, and maybe this is the distinction between a team and a club once again, which is that the club, in terms of its legacy and its stature, is about trophies, which they're not winning. Maybe going back to the immediate success story isn't necessarily going to happen after one season. Yes, maybe Jurgen Klopp does need to build around Mohamed Salah. And yes, they did lose Philippe Coutinho to Barcelona, but they got good money for him. And what do? Spend £70 million on a defender that Liverpool fans seem to think has worked wonders for them, but they I think they even ended up finishing lower than they were when they bought him. So, doesn't really bode particularly well, does it, for that Liverpool side? I do think that Mohamed Salah is a wonderful player. I think he's a fantastic addition to that Liverpool side. But let's face it, they didn't really have much to work with to start with. I also wonder how long it will be before he leaves Anfield for pastures very much new. I think if Real Madrid or Barcelona don't come calling in the next 2 years, then I'll be very surprised. I think if he stood at Anfield in the next 3 or 4 years, then I'll be very surprised. And once again, you have to think, is Jurgen Klopp doing the right thing? Is he investing the money in the right ways? Yes, he had to invest in his defence, but he could have bought 3 defenders for the money that he got for Coutinho, but he invested, practically half of it in one defender. As the Liverpool fans seem to think a lot has changed, the facts are they slipped further down the table. They could play the most attractive football known in the history of association football, but they're not going to win anything with this attitude. They're not going to win anything with this mentality, and you have to apply the same logic to an albeit weaker Egypt side. They've got a handful of players that play in the top flight of any self-respecting league in this world, in this continent. Apart from that, I certainly hadn't. I'm sure many of you hadn't even heard of that 3/4 of that Egypt side, because they're not a very good side. I think their claim to fame is having the oldest player in the tournament, I think, ever. But the fact is they're out. And you look at Portugal. Okay, Portugal might have better players than Egypt do, but the facts are Cristiano Ronaldo is still single-handedly dragging his country through the tournament. Mohamed Salah couldn't even help his side to a draw. So, let's not forget that the draw wasn't exactly against heavyweight opposition. So, Uruguay, speaking of, funny enough that it is actually against Uruguay, because Luis Suarez kind of had fulfilled that role during his time at Anfield under Brendan Rodgers, and that was the closest they came to winning the league since the Benitez era, should we say, of 2009. And even that was, the Luis Suarez era was more tainted by what he did off the pitch, or certainly not to do with his football ability, than it was to do with how many goals he scored. He was indeed the Golden Boot winner in the 13-14 season. And then he left. And look what happened. They slipped further and further down until Brendan Rodgers got the sack. So, maybe Liverpool fans need to be a bit worried if Mohamed Salah does leave. Because they are emphasising his impact so much and in many regards magnifying it so much. In terms of the fact that, yes, he might have been the top scorer, but, Harry Kane was injured for a significant part of it. Salah not so much. Romelu Lukaku, you can argue, doesn't have the support behind him. He's a different player. He's not a dribbler. He's quite frankly just a finisher, despite his, emphatic pace. So, I'm not sure that, like I said, I'm just not sure that Salah himself is the right man to drive the Liverpool side forward. Even if you look at when Ronaldo was at Manchester United, especially in those 3 years we won the title, he was the standout player. Yes, he did win the Ballon d'Or and all the rest of it. But the fact is, and you cannot deny this, is that he had a phenomenal set of players, not just around him on the pitch, even on the bench. This was the time where United's bench was stronger than most other teams' starting 11. So probably better than most teams' starting 11 of all time. And Cristiano Ronaldo was a part of that team as a whole. Mohamed Salah is a standout player in that side. Yes, okay, because he scored 32 goals, which is a record for a 38-game season. Yes, because he really is the best player in that Liverpool side by some way. But there isn't a lot of competition, is there really? I mean, Roberto Firmino should be scoring a lot more goals than he has been. And the fact that their winger is getting more goals than their striker says a lot. And again, this goes back to the argument I had about Wayne Rooney, the fact that Cristiano Ronaldo outscored him. But even then, we had Carlos Tevez chipping him with goals. We had Louis Saha, we had Dimitar Berbatov, we had Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, Michael Carrick. And they're just the core of players. We even had players the younger players that would come on and win the game in the dying seconds, like Federico Makeda, like Danny Welbeck when he scored against Stoke, like Chris Eagles against Everton. We had a whole bank of players that we could pick and choose from, especially in those 3 title-winning years when we had Ronaldo. I don't think that Mohamed Salah is currently part of a Liverpool side that has a lot of quality surrounding it. When their captain's quite frankly a joke, and Jordan Henderson, I think he's probably a bit more of a liability on the pitch than he is off it. I don't know what he adds in terms of leadership, but whatever he's doing, it didn't work in the Champions League final, which is when it should have worked. They quite frankly capitulated as soon as Salah went off. Their defence is not that strong. Yeah, they brought in Virgil van Dijk. Yes, he might have improved it, but it didn't take much to improve that. I think I could have improved that Liverpool defence, quite frankly. I think the more they play blooming Dejan Lovren and Joel Matip, the further they're going to slip down the table. The sooner that Liverpool invest in a decent goalkeeper, the further that they're going to strengthen that defence. Because I don't know, it's a case of who is worse or who is less bad out of Klavan and Simon Milo. And the fact that Alisson is reported to not be going to Liverpool, but I think he's going to one of the Italian or Spanish teams. I really can't. It might be Juventus. It's slipped my mind. But the fact that he's not going to it, and he was their top goalkeeping target, and the fact that rumours are that maybe someone like Joe Hart might be fitting the goalkeeper gloves at Anfield says a lot about the kind of quality that Liverpool's attracting. And if the kind of quality Liverpool's attracting is the substandard players, then Mohamed Salah, he could score 40 goals in a season, but Liverpool aren't going to win. They'll be lucky to win the Premier League Asia Trophy, let alone the Premier League itself. And it's just not going to happen, is it really? Mohamed Salah, like I said, very good player, but not in a very good team. And I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of Liverpool fans abuse me on Twitter, having listened to this or hearing about this, because they just think I'm wrong. Partly because I'm a United fan, partly because I'm just right, and they just don't want to hear it. But I would love to hear what you think about Mohamed Salah, whether you think that he is single-handedly going to take Liverpool to a trophy, or even the Premier League title itself, the big boy, because let's face it, that is the trophy that all Liverpool fans are after. I think there's no denying that, is there really? They've had their Champions League, they've had their Champions League final, they've had the FA Cup, they've had their League Cup, which is the most recent success. I think they've even had their Community Shield. So the only thing that certainly in people of my age, my generation, their lifetime, they want to see their club win is the Premier League trophy. And with this current squad, as I reiterate time and time again, it's just not going to happen unless they really do strengthen the core of that team. They need to get another good centre back. They need to get a goalkeeper out of this world in order to improve this Liverpool defence enough that it's going to actually make a visible difference. They need to get better centre midfielders. I don't particularly rate Jordan Henderson. He might be good in the changing room. He might be good at geeing them up, but it didn't work on the pitch. It certainly hasn't taken them to a trophy, and he certainly isn't the successor that Liverpool would hope for Steven Gerrard. So they really do need to invest seriously heavily if they are planning on getting any kind of trophy in the next 2 or 3, 4 years, however long really Jurgen Klopp has left at this club. Because you have to think, the longer he's there without winning a trophy, the shorter his life expectancy at Liverpool is going to be. I just want to give you, that is the end of my little rant about Liverpool and Mohamed Salah. As I said, I think he's a great player, but I don't think he is that good. I don't think he is Ballon d'Or worthy to the point of view that he is going to be single-handedly dragging Liverpool to finals and winning them. Because the one final that they got to, he was out, and the other 10 players, and the one that replaced him, fell apart. And you do need a good team to win a trophy, any kind of trophy. And the fact that Liverpool didn't do it, despite having had, ample opportunity against a really not that great Real Madrid side in the final, suggests to me that they have a long way to go, and that their problems extend beyond having a fantastic striker on their books. So a fantastic goal scorer on their books. Just want to give you a little quick run through though of the competition once again for you. So just a quick reminder that this is a competition running this week and next week. We've had a few correct answers in already on the email and on the text. So reminder that the competition is to win a pair of Children's England sunglasses. And it's a competition that I'm going to be announcing the winner of next week. If you do want to text in with your answer, it is 075 64 30 30 64. That's 075 64 30 30 64. Or send us an email in the studio at studio@solihullradio.com. Or you can private message me on Twitter at Samuels Radio, or on the Twitter page at Solihull_radio. And I cannot wait to announce our winner next week. Now, if it's anyone that's already messaging, I'm not going to reveal who they are, just in case they, give their answer to someone else, because I know they got the right answer. I'll reveal all next week, but I'll just reiterate the question: who is the captain of the England national team? I'll repeat it once again towards the end of the show, but who is the captain of the England national team? 075 64 30 30 64 or studio@studyhallradio.com. I look forward to seeing all of your answers. Not before, though, our final song of the evening. Well, penultimate song technically, but final song related to a topic. I'm going to be having a chat to you about where I think each of the Midlands teams are going to finish this in the upcoming Sky Bet Championship season. That is Aston Villa, Birmingham City and West Bromwich Albion. I'm not sure if Stoke counts. If I get someone, I'll have a quick talk about Stoke as well. But speaking of Midland, here's a song by a band called Midland with Drinking Problem.
One more night, one more down, one more round. First one in, last one out. Giving this town lots to talk about. But they don't know, People say I got a drinking problem. That ain't no reason to stop. People saying that I've hit rock bottom just 'cause I'm living on the rocks. It's a broken heart and thinking problem. talking, drawing conclusions. They call it a problem, I call it a solution. Last call gets later and later. I come in here so I don't have to hear same old folks, same old songs, the same old blue neon, the same old buzz. Just because people say I've got a drinking problem, that ain't no reason to stop. People saying that I've hit rock bottom, just cause I'm living on the rocks. It's a broken hearted thinking problem, so pull the bottle off the wall. People say I've got a drinking problem, but I got no problem drinking it all. They keep on talking, draw conclusions. They call it a problem, I call it a solution. Just sitting here in all my grand illusions. They call it a problem, I call it a solution.
solihullradio.com.
So yeah, as I said, I'm going to be having a little chat to you about how I think each of the Midlands teams are going to fare in the upcoming EFL Championship season. So I'm going to kick off with Aston Villa, quite simply. And looking at their opening fixtures, I think they've actually got quite a generous opening to the season. They've got Hull away, then Wigan at home, Ipswich away, Brentford at home, and then Reading at home, so that rounds off August. I think they could very possibly get maximum points from those opening 5 games. I think that Hull City, you know, they had a bit of a resurgence under Nigel Adkins, but ultimately they're not that great a team yet, really. Wigan have just come up, so, you know, second game back against Villa might be a little bit shaky still, might be still getting used to the second division again. Ipswich, likewise, I think they've had a bit of an indifferent last few years. I can't see them doing much in terms of promotion anytime soon. I can't see them getting relegated anytime soon. So I think, you know, maybe a draw on that one. Brentford at home, I think it's a game Villa really should win. And then Reading at home, well, I think Reading are probably going to go down next season. So, yeah, I think that should be a win for Villa. Having said that, though, as I mentioned, when I was supposed to have Johnny Gould on, I ended up having a 15-minute rant about that myself. Villa are in serious trouble, aren't they? Anyone that's a Villa fan, even if you're not a Villa fan, you know that the trouble that Villa have been in the last few weeks, and really in the last few years, in the sense that they've spent far out of their budget, or their budget was far bigger than it should have been. The fact that Dr. Tony Shear was banking on promotion, essentially, on getting back to the Premier League in order to get the television money and all the prize money that comes with being in the Premier League. The parachute money disappearing. So, yeah, I think they're going to lose a lot of their biggest players. They already have lost John Terry, their captain, their most experienced, most successful player, probably has ever put on a Villa shirt. So, the fact that he's gone is a massive loss. The fact that Chris Samber's also gone, in both stature-wise and in terms of his experience, a big loss. Jack Grealish is set to join the Premier League either with Tottenham or with Chelsea, one of the two. The fact that Sam Johnson was on loan, he's now going to go back to United, probably going to go on loan to another team that's not Villa. Villa will then have to sign another keeper who probably won't be as good as Johnson is. They're going to have to either bring in a lot of their youth players and just chance their luck. Even Gabriel Bonnehour has left Villa Park, another hugely experienced player, albeit not up to scratch anymore. Certainly didn't fulfil his potential during his in excess of a decade at Villa Park. But even so, it's going to be a big loss, and certainly going to be strange for him not to be there, seeing him in another shirt. So Villa are going to have to rely heavily on youth players, on free transfers from either Premier League discards or from lesser teams, and from loans. And again, Premier League clubs aren't going to be loaning their best players, are they? They're going to be loaning either the younger players or the players that they can't sell. They just have to get off their books for a season or 6 months. So even if Villa, let's say they finish 6th this season, last place in the playoffs, they're not going to be able to build on that, are they? If they're buying discarded players on a free, who probably are only there fitting a number on a team sheet, or if you've got players that are coming on loan, or players that are a bit older and therefore probably thinking about retiring soon, then it's not exactly a good foundation to build a decent team upon, is it really? Yes, they might potentially have a good start to the season based on the opening 5 fixtures, based on the opening month. But when they start playing the big boys, when they start playing teams like West Brom, who have just gone down, like Stoke, who've also just gone down, maybe won't come back up again so soon. Even looking at Swansea, who, in my opinion, probably aren't going to come back up either, but they still have a better squad than Villa do, and for all intents and purposes, all three are likely to attract better players than Villa will. So when they start playing those three, who are most likely going to be touted for promotion again, when they start playing other teams like QPR, who I believe have got Steve McLaren now in their ranks, and he might launch something quite good with them. Even with Frank Lampard at Derby, as I said earlier on, I don't think that he's necessarily going to get immediate success, but he's certainly going to be a big name attracting big players. Even though Steve Bruce he's made a very good name for himself as a manager, and he's achieved, I believe, 3 promotions as a manager in the 2nd division. But I think a lot of players might be persuaded to sign for Frank Lampard more than they might be to sign for Steve Bruce, particularly if Derby have got more money to play with than let's just say Derby do. Even players now are leaving the Premier League to join Steven Gerrard at Rangers. Certainly the younger Liverpool players and some of the slightly older but not necessarily starting 11 players are being sent to Rangers. So Steven Gerrard, again, he might not win. He probably isn't going to win the league ever at Rangers, but he is still attracting players that a team like Villa should be attracting. And the fact that they're not going to Villa, the fact they will be going to teams where they're going to get paid arguably more than they're worth, or certainly what they're worth, which Villa probably wouldn't have the funds to do. They wouldn't have the funds to not only pay money for, or in some cases get on free, but also to pay the wages, substantial wages for numerous players, when they're going to go to other clubs and get exactly what they're after. So I do fear, putting my neutral hat on for a second, I do fear that Villa will not be in the top half. I suspect that it might be closer to a relegation battle. And I know that there's a lot of people listening that aren't going to like me saying this, but I think you have to put your sentiments to one side for a second and look at the facts. The facts are Villa aren't a very good side, because the side that got them to the playoff final, most of them are going or have already gone. And who's going to replace them? Players that are nowhere. How do you replace John Terry, which I don't think Chelsea really have? How do you replace Chris Samba, a player that very tall, he's got a very big stature, bags of experience, not as much as Terry clearly, but bags of experience in the Premier League still? How do you replace those two players? My answer is you don't. You have to start from the ground and work your way up again. And that is going to take time. And Steve Bruce might not be the man that sees this project through. They might have to go through a cycle of managers before that comes to fruition. But the facts are, Villa's current side is not the sort of side. It's, a side that might struggle to even keep their heads above water in the Championship. Doesn't even bear thinking about how they'd got on in the Premier League. And I would go as far as to say that the team that went down was a lot better than the team they've currently got at the moment. And they got humiliated in their final season in 2016. 2016 where they went down. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, never mind. Had a quick mind, but yeah, 2016. This is their third season back. They've lost a lot of quality. They've gained the best manager, admittedly, because Remy Gard was a joke. But I think it is worrying times for Aston Villa Football Club, and it's a shame for a club of Villa's size, and I emphasise club, not team, a club of Villa's size, being in the position they're in. But look at Nottingham Forest. I don't think they deserve to be in the Premier League just because they won the European Cup in the 80s. Likewise with Villa. I don't think that Villa deserves to be anywhere near the Premier League at the moment. But obviously we'll see. They end the season with Sheffield United, Rotherham, Bristol City, Bolton, Millwall, Leeds, and then the final game is at Norwich. So not the worst of ends to the season. I think Leeds actually are going to have a good season. They got Marco Bielsa. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I think it's Marco Bielsa as their new manager. Again, bags of experience is a great coach. I predict great things for them this season. And yeah, as I said, I think Villa are in real trouble. And for the first time in what must be coming to 8-9 years now, Birmingham might finish above them, which brings me nicely on to Birmingham City. And indeed, I'll give you a quick glance of their opening month. Norwich, Middlesbrough, Swansea, Bolton and Nottingham Forest. Not as nice an opening to the season as Aston Villa. I think Norwich are a decent side. Middlesbrough are certainly going to be pushing for promotion. They obviously lost out to Fulham, I believe it was, in the playoffs. Might have been Villa actually in the playoffs. So they're obviously going to be looking to, if not get promoted automatically, then certainly push for another playoff place. Bolton, despite recent seasons, I think they may do quite well, even with Queen's Park Rangers, who they play on the 1st of September. As I said, Steve McLaren looking to make a good impact there, build on what Ian Holloway has already established since he took over a couple of years ago. But you also have to look at Birmingham's manager. Gary Monk has probably been the most unlucky manager in English football in recent years, barring maybe Claudio Ranieri, because there was really no need for him to be sacked by Swansea, who seemed to be trigger happy on the old sacking front. Then he went to, I think it was Middlesbrough. I don't think he's managed anyone in between that. Middlesbrough really shouldn't have been sacked by Middlesbrough. And then he's gone to Birmingham, who enjoyed their fair share of poor managers, but also have had a really good manager in Gary Rowett, who for some unknown reason they decided it was going to be really a good idea to let go of their most successful in terms of placement managers since they went down. And not only did they lose their manager, they lost their minds, quite frankly, and they needed Harry Redknapp to salvage them on the final day of the 2016-17 season, which he managed to do. But then they got rid of him not long into the next season. Hilariously, brought in Gianfranco Zola, who, another example of a good player who wasn't a good manager. He really was not, either at West Ham or Birmingham. He shouldn't be allowed to manage a football team in this country ever again. And apart from Liverpool, I'd happily see him at Liverpool actually. And then Gary Monk. I do like Gary Monk. I think he's a good manager. I think he is earning his stripes. He's bringing everything that he knew as Swansea captain into coaching. Maybe Swansea was a big ask, but I think he took it with both hands. I thought he did actually very, very well at the Liberty Stadium in the couple of years he spent there. And I think that he is learning pretty much on the job, really. And I think that with Birmingham City, haven't got a lot to lose, really. They're about as bad as a championship side could have been in the last couple of years, post Gary Rowett. And I think Gary Monk is the man to take them forward. I think he will attract some good names, some good players. Again, maybe not to the extent that Villa may do, just because Villa have got more finances at their disposal. In spite of financial fair play, they still will have, I think, more than Birmingham to spend. Having said that, I do think that with so much change happening at Villa Park, I think Birmingham are finally beginning to stabilise and establish their identity again. So for that reason, I do think that Birmingham will finish above Villa, and I suspect that might be an unpopular opinion that I have shared with you all. But I do think that Birmingham have I'm trying to think of the right word here, really. They've maybe used the word grown. I think they have grown as a football club in the wilderness years, if you like, under the last few managers. I think that they are working towards promotion. They're not looking for the quick fix, which maybe Villa have in investing all of Dr. Tony Shear's money into whatever player came in front of them. I do think that Birmingham are beginning to build level by level. I don't think they're going to invest £200 million to try and get back into the PL and become a yo-yo club. I suspect they're trying to get one set of players in and then see how they do. Then build some players around, get in some players and build around those players, and so on until they get a squad that's actually capable of challenging for promotion. And I think Gary Monk is the perfect man to fulfil that role. And I suspect that Birmingham will have a good season. I think they're going to defy some expectations, and I could very much see them having a top half finish. I think Birmingham are destined for great things in the next few years. I'm going to go as far as to say that if they keep Gary Monk in his position, if they aren't too drastic and aren't too silly with some of the decisions they make, if they invest wisely, if they look to the future and not a short-term gain, I think within the next 5 to 10 years, I think Birmingham City could very much be a regular Premier League side once again. Bold statement, I know, but I think it's possible. Why not? And that brings me on to West Bromwich Albion, who for the main part of the most recent Premier League season were the poorest side in the league. Somehow Stoke managed to do even worse than they did and finish bottom, partly thanks to Darren Moore, who is a wonderful appointment. I'm very pleased that West Brom managed to keep him and that he wanted to stay, and that he didn't decide that once his interim time was up then he would be off or revert back to his coaching role. I think it's vital that he remains, and the reason I say that is because he gave that West Bromwich Albion side, I don't know what it was, it might not even be legal, but he gave them something that caused them to grind out result after result after result, that for a moment you thought they might actually stay up here. They beat United, I think they drew with Liverpool, and they were results that even a month before he took over you thought that's not going to happen. Absolutely remarkable results that he was putting out of the bag left, right and centre. I think he was the first ever manager to be named manager of the month and get relegated in the same month, which is quite some going when you think about it. So if West Brom, likewise with Birmingham, if they manage to keep hold of him and they don't do anything too stupid, they don't start spending 70, 80, 100 million on players they really can't afford, if they manage to keep the nucleus of players, let's not forget that Johnny Evans has left, he has gone to Leicester, so they've lost their captain and arguably most experienced player. If they can keep their experienced players, that the core in that side, if they can keep them at the Hawthorns, and then bring in some youth and some style, I suspect West Brom could come up at the first time of asking. I don't think that is too unrealistic a prediction. Might not necessarily win the league, but I think certainly promotion back to the Premier League is well within their reach. And I if you look at Sunderland, because I think West Brom are kind of similar to Sunderland from the point of view that for the last 5-6 years, West Brom were looking like they might go down. And then it eventually did happen. And with Sunderland, they went down again. West Brom, I don't think, are in as much of a mess as Sunderland were and continue to be. I think Darren Moore has stabilised the club and the team superbly. And I suspect that he is, from even something as simple as what he did in the last month and a bit of the Premier League season, he could himself be enough to attract some names that might be excited to be part of a project that would involve West Brom being back in the Premier League next season. So I've actually had a message in from Tom asking me which positions I think that Villa, Birmingham and West Brom are going to finish in. I was going to come on to that. I'll come on to it now. So we'll start off with Aston Villa. So I said I think they might have a bit of a underwhelming season, to say the least. This is tough because I think saying they're going to be in a relegation battle does sound very bold, and it might be a bit harsh. So I think 13th. I'm going to go for 13th. The lucky 13th for Aston Villa. Birmingham City, as I said, I think they'll finish just in the top half. So I think 11th is probably fair, maybe slightly ambitious, but I think 11th might be good for Birmingham City. West Brom, I think 2nd. I really do think they're going to finish in 2nd. I think that Darren Moore, as I said, if he can achieve those results against United and Liverpool, then doesn't even bear thinking about what he might go on to achieve with West Brom in the Championship. I think he's really building something special at the Hawthorns. Even just based on that month and a half, I think he could be onto something there. I think West Brom struck gold. I think he is the perfect fit for West Brom at this moment in time. And like I said, I'm not a West Brom fan. I'm just looking forward to seeing what they can achieve in the next season. And for my own pride, I'd like to be proven right that they do come up. But we'll see. West Brom have got a lot of hurdles to overcome, not least because they were relegated, having been very, very poor under Tony Pulis. They need to rediscover their identity as a football club and as a team, and where do they really want to be in 5 years' time? Do they want to be back in the Premier League, having been relegated twice, or do they want to be in the Premier League first season back and stay there for the next 10 years? I think that's a question that even Aston Villa has to ask themselves. I think that's where Birmingham is eventually leading to. Villa have gone about promotion the wrong way entirely. West Brom have to look at both of those really good examples and think, which do we want to follow? I suspect they're gonna follow the Birmingham route. They're not big spenders, West Brom, and based on the fact they kept Pulis for so long, they are prepared to give managers time. I think Darren Moore will be given time, and rightly so. And I think West Brom, promoted at the first time of asking, is very, very much possible. But now we're going to come on to some comments that have come through from our listeners today. I had a message in from Matty, who is going to be my guest next week. Matty G, my co-host from University Radio, very, very funny guy. A lot of people say he's essentially the Scottish version of me, so looking forward to having him on. He's had a question in asking me, what do I think are England's chances against Belgium? That is, of course, the match on Thursday, the final game of Group G. Now, to build on what I said earlier, I do think that England, at best, will probably get a draw against Belgium. I think that, despite having very good players individually, even being a very good team, I do think that there's power within the Belgium side that is stronger than the English side, quite frankly. I think Romelu Lukaku has power as a footballer that I have not seen in a very long time from a Premier League footballer. I don't know how the England defence will cope with that. I think also Kyle Walker at centre back, I'm not too sure about that. I think he's more of a full back. I think he obviously got caught out against Tunisia, giving away that really stupid penalty, which I'm not going to forgive him for. And even with Kieran Trippier, who wasn't at all times a regular for the Tottenham side. So even though he had a fantastic game against Tunisia, arguably our man of the match, just Harry Kane aside, I do suspect that England may get caught out. But I don't think Belgium's defence is all that good. I think England's attack might be good enough to penetrate the Belgian defence, but likewise Belgium to England's. I think a draw is possible, and I think a more likely result. I can't see us necessarily beating Belgium. I think if anything they'll beat us, but I think a draw definitely the most likely result on the cards. And a question from Sahil, who we hear a lot from as well, don't we? With some good questions. Evaluate England's performance against Tunisia compared with Belgium on that subject. Well, comparing our performance against Tunisia compared to Belgium's against Tunisia, I think that was kind of what I answered at the beginning of the show, but I will just have a little quick run through that again. So, England did beat Tunisia 2-1, Belgium beat them 5-2. And I think it's a case of England had better defence, weaker attack. Belgium have a weaker attack, weaker defence, but better attack. So, it's one of those tough ones. Which is going to get you over the line? Is it going to be the strong defence or the strong attack? It's almost like the Manchester United versus Liverpool argument, isn't it? Really, United have the better defence, Liverpool have the better attack, but United finished above them, and it may be a case that repeats itself. I suspect that we, as I mentioned earlier, won't finish above them in Group G. I think we'll finish second and then end up playing the winner of Group H, which is looking actually very favourable at the moment. It looks like it very well could be one of Senegal or Colombia. Possibly not Poland, after, in my opinion, that shock defeat against Senegal a few days ago. So, you never know. It might be that we beat Panama tomorrow, and then I think we would then qualify. So it might be that Gareth Southgate thinks, well, we're not going to top the group on goal difference, so it might be worth resting some of our players and deciding that it's better all round to focus our attentions more on the games that we actually have a chance of winning. In my opinion, that would be a wise way to go. I don't really fancy playing the runner-up of Group H. I think that will be Poland, and I would rather play Senegal than Poland any day of the week. So, yeah, absolutely. In answer to that question, I think Belgium are the better side. Based on that alone, I think we should rest players because we're not expected to beat Belgium, and I think we'd already qualified at this point. And as a consequence, we've then got a better chance of keeping players fit and fresh, ready to beat whoever we play in the round of 16. And one final question which has come in, which is saying, rate Scotland's chances at the World Cup. My favourite question I've had on the Josh Samuel show in the last 3 weeks. Very, very funny that a lot of Scotland fans actually celebrate the fact that England don't qualify. I don't even know the last time Scotland qualified for a World Cup. I don't think it was in my lifetime. If it was, I don't remember it. Certainly before I was into football. So, yeah, Scotland. They can jeer us all they like, but same with Wales, and I saw I'm part of an England fans group on Facebook. I don't know if you're part of some guy, I can't remember his name now. He was Welsh guy. I thought it was very, very funny when Tunisia equalised. Was a bit more silent when we ended up winning in the 91st minute, but very ironic that a Welsh guy is celebrating England conceding when Wales aren't even in the World Cup. But I think that's a debate for another time. That does round up our chat for this week, and that is for another week. Next week I will not be on my own, provided Matty's flight gets him here well on time, which he should do. He should be here in the morning. I'm really looking forward to having him. I've not seen him since I left university a couple of weeks ago for the summer. So yeah, it's going to be great to see him. Going to be great to have him on. A bit of a FC Politics takeover of the Josh Samuel show. For anyone that did listen to FC Politics, my show at university with Matty, it was a very successful show. We were voted the third best show with more than 800 votes out of more than 80 shows. So we did something right. I've brought that here. I can't wait to re-engage with Matty and bring some of that banter back to Solihull Radio for you. And it's going to be brilliant, isn't it? Within that space of time, we would have had our final 2 games for England against Panama and against Belgium. Hopefully, we'll know the result. Or we'll obviously know the results. Hopefully, we'll know who we're playing, provided all goes to plan in the round of 16. And hopefully, we'll be that step closer to winning our first World Cup in 52 years. I will be discussing, obviously, that and much, much more, whatever happens in the next 7 days, with Matty G, Matthew Gerard, next Saturday, same time, same place. I cannot wait. I will see you all then. But until then, it is 5 o'clock somewhere. See you next week.
Sun is hot and that old clock is moving slow. So am I. The workday passes like molasses in the wintertime. Yeah, but it's July. Getting paid by the hour and over by the minute. Boss just put me over the limit. I'd like to call in something, but I think I'll just call it a day. Something tall and strong to get a hurricane before I go insane. It's only 12:30, but I don't care. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. 5 o'clock and then wheel all day, I think. This lunch break is gonna take all afternoon and half the night. Tomorrow I know that there will be hell to pay. Hey, but it's alright. I ain't had a day off now in over a year. My Jamaican vacation's gonna start right here. If the phone is for me, you can just tell it I sail away. Pour me something tall and strong to get a hurricane before I go insane. It's only 12:30, but I don't care. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. 5 o'clock all over the world. I can pay off my tab, pour myself in a cab, and be back to work before 2. At a moment like this, you can't help but wonder, what would Jimmy Buffett do? I'd buy you a land shark, take you to Anguilla.